Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Market Insights with Linux, and welcome to your weekly Nvidia update. We're going to do a full update on Nvidia right here. We'll talk about the long-term technicals. We'll talk about fundamentals, aka news, but also a little bit more than that. And we'll talk about the short term. And I think the short term is actually most interesting. Especially with the price action we've seen over the last 24 hours. I think that has been very, very interesting, and that opens up, I think, opportunities and possibilities for trading, but also possibilities for a potential buy a little bit lower. But we'll talk about that in a moment, because ultimately, and why I'm telling you that it could be nice potentially for a buy lower is that ultimately, look, Nvidia. And I'm not saying anything crazy right here, is a buy, all right? Nvidia itself has a massive moat. It's potentially the best company in the world right now. It's obviously the biggest one, but recently the fundamentals have also become better, right? I mean, with a loosening of export restrictions to China, which is one of the biggest markets for Nvidia still, but also more and more Nvidia GPUs being ordered by companies like xAI to scale. And it doesn't really seem like there's any other competitor or any other market participants that can fill that gap in demand, right? So Nvidia is going to continue to do great. They're also expanding in other markets such as the AI in automotive industries, which is great. And then, recently, like I said, on the lower time frames, to talk about that briefly, we've had a bit of a pullback, but ultimately on the higher time frames, we're definitely still bullish, as long as we hold this level here at 147 and 150, which, by the way, I would 100% set price alerts there. If you can buy there, if you can catch that, I would buy there. But that's my personal opinion, of course, and that's not financial advice, but definitely a key level to watch nonetheless. Short term becomes a little bit more interesting, but we'll talk about that in a moment. And short term, we can actually expect a bit of a deeper pullback. Now, is there any other news that you need to know about in the future? Not necessarily. I mean, obviously, trade talks between the US and the EU at this point of time are quite hot, and those will matter for the markets. And therefore, it will also matter for Nvidia on the short term. Again, on the higher time frames, on the long term, I don't think we will lose this uptrend for now. And when we're getting into earnings season now. The earnings of Nvidia are in over a month, right? So we don't need to worry about that. But I would say general earnings matter as well, right? So yesterday we did not really have many tech earnings, but today we have Alphabet and Tesla. So that's going to be interesting, and it would obviously be beneficial for the uptrend of Nvidia and for a potential move into our main price targets, which are 185 and 195. Those are my two next price targets for Nvidia. It would be beneficial to get there more quickly. And with that, let's focus on the lower time frames, because what you can see on the lower time frames, and this is the first time since the 23rd of June that we have done something like this, we have lost the uptrend. All right, we saw pullbacks across the markets, right? So AMD, Broadcom also had pullbacks. But you can see that Nvidia broke down below this local support we had at 168, 169. So to me, there's basically two scenarios right here, and which one of the two is going to play out depends a lot on the market open today, but also the general fundamentals in the market. And that is either, for example, the earnings, etc., that matters as well. We're either going to reclaim this level, so the key level is 169, reclaim that, and we're good, right? Then we just had a brief deviation below the uptrend, and we're most likely going to rally up to 180, 185 next. I'm slightly leaning towards saying this is most likely. I don't think the fundamentals are generally bad enough to expect a deeper pullback. But if, and you should be ready for the scenario, in the scenario that Nvidia is unable to reclaim 169 either today or tomorrow, we're going to drop down into this level right here, which is the level around 160, 159, where we have the 7-day rolling VWAP, 200 EMA, and the 4-hour trend, which you can see right here. In my opinion, an opportunity, but if you're trading Nvidia, you should be ready for that, and maybe place a long order towards 160. Would I short Nvidia? Definitely not. But those are the two scenarios right now for Nvidia on the short term. Long term, we're still trending up, and I'm leaning towards saying this is more likely. But I'll keep you updated on that. For now, that's what I think you need to know. So thank you for watching. I will see you all in my next videos, and bye.